How's it going, guys? It is MattySports bringing you my Week 8 predictions of the 2013 college football season. Last week in Week 7, I went 6-4, and in that week include a bunch of upsets, so I'll go ahead and recap them real quick. You had number 25 Missouri over number 7 Georgia. You had Texas over number 12 Oklahoma, possibly saving Mac Brown's job. You had Penn State over number 18 Michigan in a quadruple overtime thriller. And my upset special was correct with Wisconsin over number 19 Northwestern to bring my upset special record to 3-4. And you have the big upset of Utah over number 5 Stanford, which pretty much knocked Stanford out of contention for the national championship. So it was a pretty wild week last week, so let's move on to Week 8. And I have for you for the first game of number 11 South Carolina traveling on the road to Tennessee. South Carolina has been playing really well on offense recently with Connor Shaw, and Tennessee's still a bit upset over their lost to Georgia when they should have won. But even though Tennessee's at home and they have a really big stadium, I still like South Carolina winning because I think South Carolina is better than, even though they lost to Georgia, I think they've improved because of Georgia's injuries, and I think South Carolina can handle Tennessee fine. And next up, we have a ranked matchup of number 22 Florida traveling on the road to number 14 Missouri. This is the first time I'm going to pick the lesser ranked team, so I like number 22 Florida over number 14 Missouri because Missouri lost their starting quarterback James Franklin in their win over Georgia. And I think Florida's defense they're a really dominant defense, and I'm not sure how Missouri's offense is going to look with their backup quarterback in. And I think Florida's defense can easily respond to it, and I see Florida taking this victory on the road. Next up, another top 25 matchup in the SEC with number 24 Auburn traveling on the road to Texas A&M. Now, Auburn has been doing alright this year. Their only loss has come to LSU, so they still played pretty consistent, but Texas A&M is at home in the 12th man, and they have Johnny Manziel, and Auburn does not. So this game's pretty easy for me to pick. I like Texas A&M at home simply because of that. Next up, we're moving out west in the Pac-12 with number 20 Washington traveling on the road to Arizona State. Now, Washington came off of the loss to Oregon, and they actually hung with Oregon pretty tough in the first half and a little bit through the third, but Oregon just started to pull away. And Arizona State has still been pretty consistent this year, but I still like Washington on the road, even though Arizona State does have a really good chance of the upset here. But I think Washington will be able to bounce back over that loss to Oregon, back-to-back losses to Stanford and Oregon. Next up, we have a rivalry that's lost its luster over the past few years, which is USC traveling on the road to Notre Dame. Now, this game isn't that important this year. USC has dominated this rivalry over the past 6 seasons, but Notre Dame did win last year, and I think they're going to win again this year. I think they're going to start turning this rivalry around to where Notre Dame will start having a bit of a win streak. But I like Notre Dame because they are at home, and both USC has been really bad this year, and Notre Dame, they've been pretty bad this year too, but I think they're just a little bit better than USC, so I like Notre Dame winning this game. Next up, we're back into the Pac-12 with number 9 UCLA traveling on the road to number 13 Stanford. Now, I like UCLA because I've liked them since the beginning of the season, and Stanford came off of a loss to Utah, which was a huge upset, so I think Stanford's going to be kind of hung over that loss, and UCLA has been a really good team this year, so I think they can come back another week and still stay undefeated and travel into Stanford and win this game, which will probably boost them up a couple of rankings with that win. So in the end, I like UCLA over Stanford, but I think it'll be a pretty close game. Next up, I'm going to show some love for the American Athletic Conference. How about UConn traveling on the road to Cincinnati? And basically, both of these teams lost to USF, but Cincinnati's a better team. They have a better record. They are at home. They both lost to USF, so I can't respect them that much, but I'll pick Cincinnati just because UConn has not won a single game this year, and that's kind of sad seeing how you're playing in one of the worst conferences and you haven't won a game yet. But in the end, I'll take Cincinnati at home. Next up, we're going to the Big 12 with TCU traveling on the road to number 21 Oklahoma State. Now, this game's kind of difficult for me to pick because Oklahoma State has not been playing that well recently. They haven't been playing to as high the expectations that they could be playing, and TCU's kind of just been a mediocre team, kind of middle of the road. But I'll take Oklahoma State to win this game because they are at home. I'm still not sold on TCU yet. And even though Oklahoma State's struggling, I think they can still score points against TCU's defense at home. Next up, we have the upset special, and I've chosen this team to upset before, but they haven't pulled it off. And that is UCF traveling on the road to number 8 Louisville in a Friday night showdown on ESPN. Now, UCF played South Carolina a few weeks ago, and they almost won that game. They only lost by 3 points, and they're pretty impressive. UCF has played pretty good caliber teams in Penn State and South Carolina, and now they're playing Louisville. Louisville has not played anyone. If you count Kentucky, then I don't know what's wrong with you. This is going to be Louisville's pretty much only test of the season. UCF is a great team. I think they have the capability of storming into Louisville and winning this game with the help of Blake Bortles and Storm Johnson. And even though Teddy Bridgewater is a really great quarterback, I think UCF can come into Louisville and upset the Cardinals. And now we have the game of the week where College Game Day is going to be traveling to, and it is so far going to be the biggest game of the year. And it is number 5 Florida State traveling on the road to number 3 Clemson. Now, this is the second time College Game Day is going to be coming to Clemson so far this year, and this is going to be pretty much the biggest game of the year, I think. I don't think there's going to be a game as big as this. And this is pretty much the ACC's time to shine with their 2 top teams battling it out here. Now, it's going to be a really close game. Both offenses are really good, but both defenses are still questionable. And even though you guys know I went to the game against Maryland a couple of weeks ago where Florida State won 63-0, they shut out a pretty good Maryland offense, and their defense has been looking pretty impressive, especially Florida State's secondary. And you have Clemson, whose D-line has been improving a lot recently. So it's going to be a battle of defense between Florida State's defensive backs Florida State secondary defensive backs, same thing, against Clemson's defensive line. So whoever I think makes the more big plays could possibly help their team win. And then you have the offenses where you have both outstanding quarterbacks, and both quarterbacks have an outstanding weapon pool of wide receivers, with Florida State having Kelvin Benjamin, Rashad Green, all of them, and Clemson not having bad receivers as well, including Sammy Watkins, who's a really fast player. And it's going to come down to a quarterback duel. You have the freshman quarterback Jameis Winston traveling into Death Valley on a Saturday night. Now, he has somewhat experienced atmosphere like this before with playing at Pittsburgh on Labor Day nights, but let's be honest, that's not the same intensity and atmosphere as traveling into Death Valley on a Saturday night. And you have Taj Boyd, the veteran quarterback, who's played in the big games, who's won against LSU, and who's won against a fully loaded Georgia team at the beginning of the season. Now, it's kind of a tough game for me to pick. Florida State has not won at Clemson in 12 years. They have not won since 2001. And the winner of this game has gone on to go to the ACC championship game the last 4 seasons, I believe. So this is going to be a really close game. And I think it could possibly come down to the running game, because both quarterbacks I think are going to do really well. But it depends whose running game is going to step up and be able to create the play-action pass for Jameis Winston or Taj Boyd. But in the end, even though I really hate for me to make this pick, I'm going to have to choose Clemson at home winning this. My heart wants me to choose Florida State, but Clemson at home in Death Valley, and how Florida State has not won there in 12 years, it kind of says something of how tough it is to play at Clemson. And I think Clemson's veteran leadership in Taj Boyd is going to be better than the outstanding freshman phenom in Jameis Winston. But it's going to be a really close game. I'm really looking forward to it. But I guess that's about do it for me, guys. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below what you think of the games that we have this week, or any other games that I didn't mention that you guys are interested in. But I guess that'll be it. I'll see you guys next week, where I'll make week 9 predictions and especially go over this game, the outcome. But hope you all have enjoyed. This has been MattySports. I'll see you guys in week 9, where I predict 10 more games for you. See you guys then.